You are listening to The Michael Lodge Show. Wealth, business, and taxes. Oh, yeah, and some politics. Let's get started.
It is a beautiful Saturday morning here in Palm Beach in South Florida. But it sounds as though that my talking isn't going to be as smooth as it should. I just got my cup of coffee, so maybe that will kick in. Hopefully more than halfway through the show. Listen, I'm getting kind of fed up. I'm so sick and tired of everybody trying to destroy everybody else. So you didn't believe the way I did, so I should destroy you. I mean, that seems to be the mentality that's going on. And the problem is that same mentality is going on in the corporate world. So we have what is called political activism, corporate political activism, going strong. Is it accomplishing anything? No. It's just causing more divide, more hate, more disturbances, more conflict. And I really want to talk about that conflict issue because you may think that you're running a company. And you have the right to, at least this is what you think, you have the right to take your political views, push it onto your corporation, and that should be okay. It's not okay. There are going to be people that don't believe in you. So what are you going to do? Fire them? Get rid of them? Harass them? It amazes me that individuals with corporate political views have always gone along the road of preaching tolerance. Accept other people. Accept the way that they think, the way that they feel, their lifestyle. They have always projected that they are the tolerant ones of this world, of this nation. Unfortunately, when you have a political agenda that you want to push, you're pushing away other people. You're condemning their lifestyle while you want them to accept your political views. You see, in this big world of ours in the United States, we have all kinds of people from all parts of the world, from all political beliefs. And we have to have tolerance for them. We just cannot say, okay, you guys are so evil that I'm going to destroy your lives. I'm going to ban you from my networks. I'm going to harass you while you're employed here at my company because of the way that you believe. I'm going to fire you if I can get a chance to. You see, that's discrimination. Once you start blacklisting people because of the way that they think, the way that they believe, the way that they vote, and you put them on this blacklist that you don't want to do business with them, you don't want them in your circles, you don't want them anywhere part of your life. You blacklist them, you shun them, you tell other people don't do business with them, don't talk to them. That's discrimination. And you are the same people, you are the same people who went around yelling tolerance, tolerance, tolerance. And then when it comes to political issues, you become the most intolerant people in the world. Your standards of politics within the company offend people. Not everyone in your company is going to agree with how you feel. Not everyone who does business with you, who buys your products, who renders your services, do not agree with you politically. People who are listening to me now do not agree with me politically. But I'm not going to shun you. I want to talk to you. I want to know how you feel and how you think and what makes you vote and what makes you make those decisions that you make. I want to know what those are all about. Because if I'm unwilling to listen and unwilling to compromise and unwilling to be tolerant, then I'm an unethical person. And that's the problem with a lot of companies, is that they have become unethical. When you start treating the consumer of your products badly because you don't believe in them, you don't believe in how they vote and how they believe and maybe even how they worship, if you do not have tolerance for that, if you don't have tolerance for the consumer, the end user, and you want them to know that they have to do exactly what you tell them to do, then you as an individual are no longer an ethical leader. Because ethical leaders listen. They observe. They are tolerant of those other views. And they don't offend. See, when you start offending other people and other companies and other organizations and other groups, if you begin to offend people, especially your consumers, then you are no longer an ethical leader, because now you're putting the company at risk. You're putting them in harm's way. You're putting the investors in harm's way. Because if you know anything about politics, if you maybe you're that dumb, but if you know anything about politics, what goes around always comes around in politics. And when you have taken a stance on something that comes around in a few months that says you're wrong in that, what happens to your company? Because you were bullheaded enough to push your political agenda. You see, in politics, it's karma. I believe this. I've seen it. I've seen it over the years. Listen, I'm old, and I have seen it all. And I've been in the corporate world way too long, and in the political world way too long. I know what happens with politics. Karma is a bitch, and it comes around and bites it in the ass every single time. Because people begin to become annoyed at what you're preaching. They don't want to hear that you're preaching your political views, or that you're offending people, or you're blocking them off your social media networks. They don't like that. Because see, if you don't know this, America is a freedom of speech country. We're able to believe. We're able to vote for whoever we want to vote for. We're able to go to any church that we want to go to. We're able to say anything unless it's those words are threatening, hateful. And I'm afraid that what I'm seeing at the moment is that what's coming out of corporate politics, activism, is hate. And you're willing to do as much harm as you possibly can to the other person because they did not believe as you do. Karma's a bitch. What goes around comes around. And it will affect the company. I believe, and I'm calling on all corporate boards at the moment, curb in your CEOs who are political activists and who are using the name of your corporations and your companies to push their political agenda. If they are willing to offend clients and customers and consumers and other people in this world, just normal Americans, if they're willing to do that, if they're willing to shun them, if they're willing to cut them out, if they're willing to try to destroy them in any way that they possibly can, they are no longer an ethical leader. They are not even a leader at all. You, as chairmen of boards and board members, have the responsibility to curb in these political activists within your corporation because it will harm you. The biggest issue that will be happening in just any moment now, because I've already heard 2 cases now, 2 mediations of political activism within a company where employees did not like what the other person was saying and they wanted them fired. Even though that employee has always been a team player, who has always been an individual who did what he said he was going to do. He was an excellent employee. But you have other people on the other side who do not believe with him politically because you allowed politics to be discussed within your corporation, which creates conflict. Politics creates conflict. It never creates any good. So listen, you board members, if you are allowing your CEOs who are political activists create conflict within your company, within the organization, within your clients, within your consumers, within people outside who are watching you, you are doing damage to your corporation. I don't mind if a company takes a position on a business political issue. But you don't push a political agenda through a corporate name and create conflict within a whole bunch of circles within that corporation. Once you start creating that conflict, all those circles begin to deteriorate, and pretty soon you have nothing. You have nothing. By allowing this political nonsense happening within your companies, you are creating a disaster which is waiting to happen, and it's going to happen. When you have staff willing to take a stand and treat other staff evil, treat their clients evil, treat the consumers evil, because they did not believe in your political views, you are doing damage to this nation, to your communities, to your corporate structure. You no longer have corporate strength. Every time that you allow politics to get engulfed into your company becomes weaker and weaker and weaker. What goes around comes around. You have a responsibility as board members to protect the financial soundness and the ethically way that you run your businesses. You have that responsibility. Politics is never ethical. And once you begin to allow politics to run your company, to run your organizations, you are no longer ethical companies, because you're willing to break the rules of ethics, to break the rules of law, to break the rules of tolerance. Unethical behavior is just not about stealing. Unethical behavior is how you treat other people. Ethical behavior is how you deal with everyone on a fair and honest basis. Once you begin to attack other individuals because of political belief, you have gone over the line and you are no longer an ethical or a strong company. You have become weak. Because now your focus is on politics. Who can say this? What can be said? Who are you going to shun? Who are you going to kick out? Who are you going to attack? Who are you going to hate? Politics, political activism within a company never works out well. And so I'm asking all of you boards of directors, curbing your CEOs who are political activists and who are using your corporation to do his or her political activity. If you don't curb it, I'm telling you, what goes around comes around, and it's going to destroy the company. It's going to destroy the morale. It's going to destroy the professionalism. It's going to destroy the ethical soundness of your business. Curb in your CEOs who are political activists, because they're doing more damage at the moment than you will ever experience before. And I'm telling you, this is a crisis. This is a crisis, and if you don't get it under control, and if you don't get your employees under control, that politics is not to be spread and hated and forced upon other people. Your political agendas are not to be even to come into these corporations, because it's creating a conflict situation, and conflict is dangerous. Conflict creates a disaster. Listen, I'm a mediator, so I see conflict every single day. And I can see when strong opinions and strong stances are taken by individuals, and how much harm and damage it does to the other party. You may think that, oh, this is a great thing. Yes, we need to take a stance. When you are doing damage to other people, that's not a good stance. That's so unethical that it's disgusting. A leader in any corporation is to be tolerant of other people, and has got to be able to make good choices for the company. He is not there for the nation. He is not there to make a political agenda. He is not there to push his political ideas upon other people. And he is not there to condemn and soil other Americans. That's not his job or her job. That's the job of politicians. That's all they do. And when you have political activism within your company, all that you have become is a low, unethical politician. No longer a business leader. No longer a leader of people. No longer a leader of new ideas and new technologies and new approaches. No. When politics comes into your company, and a CEO is using his political agenda through the company, you have lost ethics. It's gone. Politics never brings anything ethical into any company or any organization. This is far different from a company taking a stance on a tax issue or a governance issue that involves his or her business or the corporation. No, that's when CEOs and good leaders become active. When they see something that's going to affect their company. But let me tell you something. That Republican that's out there, or that conservative that's out there, doing a good job, being a good impact on this community, just because he voted for somebody that you don't agree with has nothing to do with you. Just because the President of the United States has an opinion on how the country should be run has nothing to do with you if it's not affecting your business, because so far I haven't seen anything that affects corporations. In fact, it has helped corporations. But just because you don't like a person, you hate a person, and once you take that hate and you involve it into your corporation, you're going to do damage to the stockholders, you are going to do damage to your staff, and you're going to do damage to the reputation of your company. Right now, Twitter is a hated company. Facebook is a hated company. Apple is getting there. Amazon is there. Because their CEOs decided to become political activists and use the companies as political activists and not as financial generators in innovation of new ideas. Instead, they decided to become political activists. And what has happened? All of those companies are no longer looked on as leaders. They're looked on as hated individuals. The companies, the staff that work for those companies are no longer respected for what they know and what they do. And those individuals that got involved with their CEO's political activism and became mean and held grudges and tried to hurt other people are no longer effective employees. And if you're one of them, I want you to take a very good look at what you've been doing, because you've created a lot of conflict. So boards of directors, take some responsibility here and become ethical leaders. You have the responsibility of protecting those companies, and right now, they're becoming hated. If you want to get involved, and I encourage every single one of you corporations out there, if you want to get involved and if you want to make a difference, forget about the national level. Because that is a dirty, rotten, political, unethical level. If you want to get involved, look at the communities around you that you are holding business in. Look at the communities. What are their needs? Are schools going down because their reading and math skills are bad? Are individuals not being able to get into colleges and universities because their reading skills are so bad that they can only read above a third grade level? Are students unable to go forward because their mom and dads can't speak English and write, and so they can't even help them with their homework? How about those kids? How about the 400,000 to 700,000 homeless children that are on the streets of our nation's cities every single day that do not have a home to go for? What about those kids? How about the small businesses in your communities that need help? Maybe they don't know how to read financial statements. Maybe they don't know how to think on marketing and sales. They're trying to survive, but they just don't have the ability to get that knowledge. Are you helping them? Are you training them? Are you teaching them? Are you looking at the communities where the elderly truly need help? Maybe they need food. Maybe they're not getting the food that they need. Maybe they're not getting the transportation that they need to get to their doctors. So I want you to understand that within your communities there is a need, and that need is for you to help. Putting together a volunteer program within your corporation where they will tutor a child for 1 year. You adopt a child for 1 year to tutor them. Put in a volunteer program for that. Spend a little money on outside activity for those kids who need that tutoring. There is so much possibilities within all of our communities that corporations should be looking at. Maybe at some point in time, if you're a construction company, maybe you donate some hours to the city and you say, listen, we'll go out and we'll fill up those potholes. Instead of giving it to a senator or to a congressman, that money, why don't you give it to an organization that can go out there and help out on the roads? You see, in order for us to make a difference, we have to start within our communities. Once we have made a difference, once we have done great things, then the politicians should be a target because they didn't do any of that you did. So if you want to be a political activist, leave the company. Go out there and start your own nonprofit organization if you want to become a political activist. But don't use company money. Don't use company time. Don't use the image of the company. Don't misuse the reputation of that company based on your political views, because that political activism is unethical. So the board of directors have to make a decision here. Do you keep CEOs on board who are going to continue to be a political activist instead of focusing on the needs of the company and the needs of your community. Those are the only two things that you should be focused on at the moment. The needs of the company and the needs of the community around you. Those are your two things. The needs of the company is what you produce and what you do well and what you continue to achieve in developing new ideas and new technologies and new ways. That you have investors that have invested in that. They haven't invested money into your political views. They invested the money on how you run that company. And then you as a CEO and the board of directors have got to decide what you need to do within your communities to make them better. Not politically, forget about politics, but politics to the side, because that's a waste of time. What can you do? What issue is there that is in such great need that you can work on as a company? Political activism just creates more conflict, and that conflict does no good for the company. It does no good. So I'm calling upon the board of directors today. You chairmen, call your boards together today and make a decision on which direction you're going. Are you going to be a company of political activists? Or are you going to become a company that is truly focused on your business, on your investors, on your employees, and on the community in which you live? You choose political activism that has conflict, or a company that's responsible and ethical and works within the community in which it lives. Things have got to change. Stockholders have got to make decisions. Is this an ethical company that you can trust to create more revenue, more value, more participation within the communities they are in? Or are they going to be a political, agenda-driven company that puts everybody to the side unless they believe in how they believe? Conflict. Karma. What goes around comes around in politics. Choose what's better for your companies. Push for the momentum of your company to become stronger and to get away from the politics and more focused on the community. That's where every company should be. So, board of directors, you have a chore ahead of you, but you've got to rein in your CEOs who are political activists, because it's doing your companies absolutely no good. Listen, if you have any comments, if you have any concerns, send me a text at 818-252-5682. Again, that's 818-252-5682. Or send me an email at info@lodge, LODGE-CO.com. If you like my content and if you like the work that I'm producing, support me, won't you? Go to buymeacoffee.com/Michael Lodge. buymeacoffee.com//Michael Lodge. All together. Listen, I know I'm coming down hard on you, but sometimes I gotta do it. Sometimes I gotta say, listen, if you don't straighten up, it's gonna be bad stuff coming down the road. It's much better to be an ethical company all the time. And everything that you do, everything that you say, everything that you produce needs to be always focused on ethical. Listen, if you don't have an ethics committee, put one together. If you don't have an ethics policy, put one together. And include in that politics. Because you need to know what the policy of the company is about politics. If you need help, let me know. I'll be more than happy to help you. I've done it before. Every corporation, every organization, even right on the side of me, because I'm an accountant by trade, right beside me I have a code of ethics that's sitting right beside my microphone that is big, and I look at it every single day. In my mediation on my website, I have the code of ethics for mediators on my website. I have the code of ethics for my company on my website. Listen, each and every single one of us have been touched by unethical activity in some way in a portion of our life. It has happened. So ethics to me, and I've even written a book, it's called Ethically Thinking. It's not that hard. It's on Amazon. But I have been touched by unethical activity. And I decided that I would talk about it, I would hammer it in, I would focus on it so that individuals would understand that ethics in our life, in our religion, in our businesses is vital in order for us to move forward as a nation, as a community. So that's why I talk about it so much. Because I tell you, once you've been touched by unethical activity, it's in your head, it's in your mind, it's in your heart, and you're always wanting to talk about it and to teach about ethics. If you want me to come to your company and give a course on ethics, I'll be more than happy to. If you want me to sit down with your board of directors and talk about ethics, I'll be more than happy to. Because I don't like conflict. As a mediator, I see conflict every day, and my role and my responsibility is to get the conflicted parties together and get to a point where they can agree to resolve the issue. Conflict is a very important thing. Conflict in a company costs companies billions of dollars every single year because they do not address and remove conflict from their organizations. Well, that's it for today. Listen, I am going to go out. You know, I want to tell you something. During the lockdown, I said, what in the world am I going to do with myself? So I did two things. One, I wrote 2 books. I finished off 2 books. And then secondly, I decided to cook. And I have been learning to cook everything. Thank God for YouTube. I tell you, with YouTube, you have all of the instruction out there to do it. Yes, I used YouTube. I was building a front porch on my South Carolina home. And I wanted to build a porch, a southern porch that went from one end of the house to the other end of the house. And the contractor goofed it all up. He built it so badly, I literally had to tear it all the way down and start from scratch. So what do you think I used to build that porch? YouTube. You betcha. I looked at every single individual that was a building that had a video out there that showed how to build a porch, and I studied those videos over and over and over. You know that porch, it was built 2 years ago now, is still strong. It's still going. I sold the house, but it's still a strong porch, and that porch is where people come and they sit there and they chat and they talk. And that's why I built the porch, because I wanted a place where people could come and chat and talk and have a cup of coffee. And I did a lot of podcasts out of there, a lot of vlogs off of that porch. But I did it all through YouTube. So anyway, to get back to my story, from my other story, which led to another story. But what I did in the lockdown is I took my YouTube and I learned how to cook. I cooked everything. I cooked pasta. I cooked roast. I cooked all kinds of things. One of the things that I learned is how to bake bread. And so, now listen, you see guys, I'm single, okay? So I have got to know how to cook, and I got to know how to do all of this stuff. I was a good cook before, but I just wanted to experience new dishes and new tastes. And so I learned how to bake bread. And so ever since we were out of lockdown, I have continued on with my bread baking. Oh my gosh, I can't even talk this morning. Bread baking. And so every Saturday or Sunday, I bake. Oh my gosh, my words, my mouth. I bake a loaf of bread every Saturday and Sunday. And that's for my week. And I make my sandwiches out of it, make my toast out of it. I have saved so much money by baking instead of going to the store. And it tastes good. So, and it just takes a few minutes. You guys think it's a long, drawn-out process, but it's not. It's an easy process. And you can make a loaf of bread, in 2 hours, because everything has got to sit there and rise and grow and everything. But listen, you're often doing other stuff. But anyway, so that's what I decided to do. And so that's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to bake a loaf of bread, and that will be my bread for the rest of the week. I love it. And I add, I'm being creative too. I add different spices and all kinds of different things to make the taste of the bread a little different. And I tell you, when you put it into the toaster and you have all of those herbs and spices inside the bread and it's baking inside the toaster with butter on it, I tell you, it's the best thing. I almost think it's better than sex. I tell you, that's how much I think. Listen, we all do our thing, right? And lockdown, I did my stuff, and I came out a better person, and I'm a good baker now. What do you think? An old man here baking bread. Anyway, listen, if you have any comments or questions or anything, just send me that text at 818-252-5682. And I'll be more than happy to answer any question you have on business or ethics or accounting or taxation, because remember, I'm a licensed tax practitioner. So I'm it's my year. Anyway, I love all of you. Keep listening. Tell other people to listen. I need more listeners, you guys. I need more listeners. This is Mike Lodge. Talk with you soon. Bye-bye. This podcast has been produced by Michael Lodge, fully focused on content.